I was 31, established merchant in Meraux, not wealthy, but comfortable, trusted, known, the kind of trader people return to, the kind whose word meant something, or so I thought, until I discovered what that actually meant, what it actually cost, what it actually required. He appeared at my stall. Stranger? Foreign, Aramaic accent, travel-worn clothes, cautious eyes, the kind of customer you assess carefully, the kind who might cause problems. "I need supplies," he said, "delivered to Napata, 30 days from now, specific goods, quality goods. Can you do this?" I examined his list. Expensive items, valuable shipment, good profit. But Napata was far. 30 days was tight. And something about him, something uncertain. "Payment?" I asked. "Half now, half on delivery. Standard terms, fair terms, except I don't know you," I said honestly. "How do I know you'll pay the second half?" He met my eyes, direct, steady. "You don't, just as I don't know you'll deliver. We're both taking risk, both trusting. That's commerce, that's life." Something in his words resonated, made sense, made me feel seen, like he understood something most people missed. "Why me?" I asked. "There are larger merchants, more established traders. Why choose my stall?" "I asked around," he said simply. "People said you're honest, that your word means something. That's what I need, not the biggest, not the cheapest, the one whose word I can trust." Pride swelled in me, my reputation, my character, being recognized, being valued. This is what I'd built. This is what mattered. This is who I was. "Yes," I said, "I'll do it. 30 days, Napata, exact goods on your list. You have my word." He smiled, relieved, extended his hand. We clasped. No contract, no witnesses, no written terms. Just two men, two hands, two words given, his trust, my promise. He paid half, substantial amount, enough to cover costs and begin preparation. 30 days, he repeated. "I'll be waiting." "I'll be there," I said, confident, certain, easy promise, simple promise. 30 days was plenty of time. I'd done similar journeys dozens of times. This would be straightforward, profitable, another successful transaction, another confirmation that I was reliable. He left, and I began preparations, selected goods carefully, quality items exactly as specified, arranged my best caravan, experienced workers, strong camels, everything perfect, everything controlled, everything guaranteed. My wife, Neferet, watched me prepare. "You seem proud," she observed. "I am," I admitted. "He chose me because of my reputation, because people trust my word. That means something." "It does," she agreed. "But pride can be tested. Promises can become complicated." I laughed, dismissed her concern. "It's a simple delivery. 30 days, easy." She didn't argue, just looked at me with eyes that saw something I didn't, some future I couldn't imagine, some cost I hadn't calculated. The caravan departed days before deadline. 20 days for a journey that took 15 normally. Plenty of buffer, plenty of safety. I even traveled with them the first day, ensuring everything was perfect, everything was ready, everything was under control. Safe journey, I told my lead worker Manu. Experienced man, trustworthy. Napata in 15 days. Meet the stranger, deliver, return with payment. Simple. Simple, he agreed. We'll see you in 30 days. I watched them disappear into desert. Confident, certain, already planning how I'd spend the second payment, already imagining the stranger's satisfaction, already seeing my reputation grow, already being the merchant whose word means everything. I didn't know, couldn't imagine that I just promised something I couldn't guarantee. That circumstances I couldn't control were about to test whether my word actually meant what I claimed it meant, whether I was who I thought I was, whether my promise was real. 10 days passed. No word. Expected. Normal. Desert travel doesn't send updates. You depart, you arrive, you report. That's how it works. 15 days passed. They should be arriving in Napata. Tomorrow, maybe. Delivering, receiving payment, beginning return journey, all according to plan. All perfect. Day 16. A runner arrived, exhausted, desperate, from my caravan, and my stomach dropped before he even spoke. Because runners don't come unless something's wrong. "Sir," the runner gasped, "the caravan stopped 3 days south. Manu is ill, badly ill. Half the workers, too. Water was bad, contaminated. They're barely moving." My mind raced. 3 days south meant 12 days from Napata. They were behind, way behind, and sick, with contaminated water in the desert. "The goods?" I asked. Stupid question, selfish question, but necessary question. Safe? Protected. But, sir, they can't move. Not for days, maybe weeks. Manu said to send help, or send word to the buyer. Tell him it's impossible. Impossible. That word, that terrible word, that word that meant my promise was broken, already broken, before I even chose. I did calculations, fast, desperate calculations. 14 days until deadline. 12 days travel from their position. 2 days. Not enough, not even close. Even if they recovered immediately, even if nothing else went wrong, even if they couldn't make it. "Take fresh water," I commanded. "Medical supplies. Go back. Help them." "And the buyer?" he asked. Should I carry a message? I stopped. Message, yes, logical, sensible. Explain the situation, apologize. Everyone would understand. It's not my fault. It's contaminated water. It's illness. It's circumstances beyond control. No one could blame me. No one would call me promise breaker. "I'll handle that," I said. "Go help the caravan." He left, and I sat there in my empty stall with this crushing weight settling onto my chest. My promise, my word, my reputation, all threatened by circumstances I didn't cause, didn't control, couldn't prevent. Neferet found me, silent, staring, What happened? I told her. Everything. The illness, the delay, the impossibility, the failure. You'll send word, she said. Not question, statement. Explain, apologize. That's what anyone would do. Yes, I agreed. That's what I should do. But I didn't move, didn't write, didn't send, because something inside, something stubborn, something stupid maybe, refused. I promised. I gave my word. Not I'll try, not unless circumstances prevent, just I'll do it. Simple, absolute, unconditional. But that's not realistic. That's not how business works. That's not possible. I spent that night awake, staring at ceiling, arguing with myself. Reasonable voice versus stubborn voice. Practical voice versus honor voice. Survival voice versus promise voice. The reasonable voice was loud, clear, convincing. You can't control illness, can't control contaminated water, can't control desert. Send word, apologize, arrange new delivery. Anyone would understand. Your reputation won't suffer. You'll still be honest, just realistic. The stubborn voice was quieter, smaller, but relentless. You promised. 30 days, no conditions. He trusted your word, absolute word. If you break it, even with good reason, it's still broken. But I'll destroy myself trying to keep it, the reasonable voice argued. Sacrifice everything. For what? For pride? For some abstract principle? For who you are, the stubborn voice answered. For what your word actually means. For whether promises are real. Morning came, no decision made, no message sent, no plan formed, just paralysis, caught between impossible choices, between breaking promise or breaking self. Manu's son found me. Father sent me. He's recovering but weak. Caravan won't move for week, minimum, he said. Tell the buyer, explain. Father says you can't keep this promise. He says, it's not your fault. I looked at this boy, this messenger offering me escape, offering me excuse, offering me release from impossible burden. Thank you, I said. Tell your father. Tell him I'll handle it. The boy left, and I knew. Decision made, not consciously, not logically, just made. Somewhere deeper than thought, somewhere stubborn and stupid and true. I wasn't sending word, wasn't explaining, wasn't apologizing. I was keeping my promise, somehow, no matter what it cost. I did calculations, real calculations, brutal calculations. What would it take to keep this promise? What would it cost? What would I have to sacrifice? New caravan, that was the only way. Hire new workers, buy supplies, make the journey myself. 12 days remaining, barely possible. If nothing else went wrong, if I left immediately, if I spent everything. I counted my savings, every coin, every resource, everything I'd accumulated over years of careful business, and I calculated the new caravan would cost all of it, everything, plus debt, plus borrowing, plus risking everything else I had for one promise to one stranger who would never know if I'd tried, Who would understand if I sent word? Who would probably just find another supplier? Neferet found me counting. What are you doing? Calculating whether we can survive, I said honestly. Survive what? Keeping my promise. She went quiet, very quiet, that dangerous quiet that means she understands and disagrees and is trying to control what she wants to say. We have children, she said carefully. We have responsibilities. We have life beyond this one promise. I know. Then why are you even considering this? I looked at her, this woman who trusted me, who built life with me, who deserved security, safety, a husband who made sensible choices. Because I promised, I said. Simple words, inadequate words, true words. Promises can be broken, she said, with good reason, with explanation, with reality. Can they? I asked. Can my promises be broken? Can my word be conditional? If it can be broken with good reason, then what is it actually worth? She stared at me. You're not talking about business anymore. No, I agreed. I'm talking about who I am, what my word means, whether I'm actually trustworthy or just trustworthy when it's convenient. This is insane, she said, not angry, nerd. You'll destroy us for pride, for principle. Maybe, I admitted, but if I don't, I'll destroy something else, something I can't rebuild, my ability to trust myself, my knowledge that when I say something, it's true. She left, didn't argue more, didn't try to convince me, just left. And I knew she was right. This was insane. This was destructive. This was choosing abstract principle over concrete family, over real responsibilities, over everything practical. But I couldn't stop, couldn't choose different, couldn't break this promise, even though it would break me. I hired workers, expensive workers, the only ones available on short notice. They knew I was desperate, charged accordingly, took my money with smiles that said, "Fool." I gathered supplies, my own supplies, goods from my storeroom, things I'd planned to sell, things that represented my security, all repurposed, all sacrificed to this impossible promise. My friend Jabari confronted me. Have you lost your mind? You're destroying yourself. For what? For a stranger who will never know the cost. He'll know I kept my word, I said. At what price? Jabari demanded it. Your business, your family's security, your sanity? At the price of being able to look at myself, I said quietly. At the price of knowing my word actually means something. At the price of being who I claim to be. That's pride talking, he said. Not honor, pride. Maybe he was right. Maybe this was pride. Maybe I was destroying everything for ego, for need to be right, for some twisted sense of self-importance. But it didn't feel like pride. It felt like necessity, like some essential thing I couldn't compromise on, like the difference between being someone or being nothing. I left at dawn, 8 days to deadline. Barely enough time. No margin for error. No room for anything to go wrong. Just desperate, impossible rush across desert to keep word given to stranger who was probably already making other arrangements. The journey was brutal. No other word. Brutal. We traveled through heat that should have stopped us, pushed through exhaustion that should have killed us, kept moving when every rational thought screamed, "Stop. Rest. This is insane." But stopping meant missing deadline. Missing deadline meant breaking promise. Breaking promise meant what? What exactly did it mean? That question haunted me. Every painful step, every desperate hour. What was I actually protecting? Why did this matter so much? Why couldn't I just accept that circumstances sometimes make promises impossible? On day 6, a sandstorm hit. Not as bad as the one that took my father years ago, but bad enough. Enough to delay us, enough to threaten everything. We huddled, waited, lost precious hours, and I felt rage, impotent rage, at universe, at circumstances, at everything that conspired against my stupid, stubborn promise. "We should turn back," one worker said. "This is impossible now." "Keep going," I commanded. "Sir, we can't make it, even if storm ends now." "Keep going." We did. Storm ended. We pushed forward, through night, through pain, through everything. Day 7, 8, the deadline approaching, like execution date, and still, miles away, still, impossible. On the morning of the 30th day we arrived, exhausted, destroyed, barely functioning, and there, at the agreed meeting place, he stood, the stranger, waiting, not anxious, not checking the sun, just waiting, like he knew, like he never doubted. I approached, carrying goods, my workers carrying goods, all of us looking like survivors of disaster, which we were, survivors of my insane commitment to my stupid promise. "You came," he said. Simple statement, no surprise, no relief, just recognition. "I promised," I said, words barely audible, throat raw, body broken. "Yes," he agreed, "you did, and you kept it." "It almost killed me," I said, honestly, because I needed him to know, needed him to understand what his trust cost me, what my promise cost me, what this cost. "I know," he said gently. "I see. And I honor it." He paid. Full payment, as promised, and added more, substantial bonus. "For the cost," he said, "for what you sacrificed, for what you proved." I took the money. It didn't cover what I'd spent, not close. But that wasn't the point. The point was what? I looked at him, this stranger, this man who trusted me, who waited for me, who never doubted, and I understood. He wasn't testing me. He was witnessing me, witnessing who I chose to be, witnessing what my word actually meant, witnessing me become what I claimed to be. "Why did you trust me?" I asked. "You didn't know me, didn't have guarantees. You just trusted." "Because," he said slowly, "I needed to know there are still people whose word means something, people who keep promises even when it costs them, people who understand that trust is sacred. You could have broken your promise with good reason, with explanation, and I would have understood, but you didn't. You kept it. You suffered for it. You proved it's still possible to be trustworthy, absolutely trustworthy. Something broke in me then, not broke as in cracked, broke as in opened. Some understanding flooding in, some recognition. This wasn't about goods delivered, wasn't about business transaction, was about something deeper, something essential, something that defined everything. My promise wasn't to him, not really, was to myself, to who I am, to what my word means, to whether I'm trustworthy, not just when convenient, but when it costs everything, to whether my identity is real. I kept that promise because breaking it would have broken something in me I couldn't repair, my ability to trust myself, my knowledge of who I am, my certainty that when I speak, it's true. Thank you, I said to him, for trusting me, for waiting, for witnessing. He smiled. Thank you for being worthy of trust. He left, and I stood there, in Napata, destroyed, exhausted, nearly ruined financially, and somehow I felt rich, wealthy, abundant, in something that couldn't be measured in coins. I'd kept my word, not conditionally, absolutely, and that made me someone I could trust, someone I could respect, someone who was actually real. I'm 58 now, 27 years since that promise, that journey, that choice that almost destroyed me and somehow saved me. My business recovered, eventually, slowly, because people heard. The story spread. The merchant who destroyed himself to keep a promise. At first they mocked, called me fool, said I was impractical, insane, too proud. But then things shifted. Customers came, specifically because they heard that story. I want to do business with someone whose word is absolute, they said. Someone I don't have to verify. Someone I can trust. Trust. That word again. That rare word. That valuable word. That word that became my currency, my reputation, my wealth. Contracts became unnecessary. Agreements were made on word alone. People didn't check my work, didn't verify my claims, didn't protect themselves. They just trusted because they knew, absolutely knew, that my word meant something, not conditionally, absolutely. And that became more valuable than anything else I could have built, more profitable than any clever business strategy, more sustainable than any momentary advantage. Because trust is the foundation of everything, and people will pay for foundation they can rely on. Young merchants come to me, asking advice. How do you build reputation like yours? And I tell them, same story every time. Keep one promise that costs you everything. That's how. Not the easy promises, not the convenient ones, the one that threatens to destroy you. Keep that one, and you'll discover what your word actually weighs. They don't understand, not at first. They think I'm being poetic, philosophical, impractical. They want strategies, techniques, business methods. But the ones who listen, the ones who eventually face their own impossible promise, they come back and they understand. I kept it, they say. It nearly killed me, but I kept it. And now I can trust myself. Now I know who I am. That's the secret. That's what I learned. Promises aren't obligations to others, not primarily. They're definitions of self. They're statements of identity. They're commitments to who you are. And breaking them breaks something in you that can never be fully repaired. I see Neferet differently now. She stayed through that impossible journey, through the financial crisis, through everything. And she kept her promise too, her vow to stand with me, even when I was insane, even when I chose principle over practicality, even when I was impossible. Do you regret it? She asked me years later. The cost, the sacrifice? Every day, I admitted, and never, both true. I regret the pain I caused you, the hardship, the fear, but I don't regret knowing who I am, knowing my word is real, knowing I can trust myself. My children ask about that journey, that promise, that choice. Was it worth it? Hard question, complex question, because it cost us, delayed their education, limited their opportunities, made their childhood harder than it needed to be. For what? For my pride? For my abstract principle? But they see who I am. They see how people trust me. They see the weight my word carries. And they understand, maybe, that integrity isn't free, that character costs, that being trustworthy requires sacrifice. I teach them, not lectures. Example, I make promises to them, small promises. I'll be home for dinner. I'll help with your project. I'll listen when you need me. And I keep them, absolutely, because they're learning what promises mean, what word means, what trust means. The stranger, I saw him again. Years later, he returned, more business. But that wasn't why he came. I tell your story, he said, everywhere I go. The merchant who kept impossible promise, and people respond. They need to know it's still possible to trust, to rely on someone's word. You gave that, not just to me, to everyone who hears. And I realized that promise, that impossible burden, that weight I carried, it wasn't just mine, was witnessing, was testimony, was proof for everyone who doubts, that words can still mean something, that promises can still be kept, that trust can still be real. Now I'm old, business passed to my son, reputation intact, and I think about weight, the weight of a promise, what it means to carry it, what it costs to keep it, what it gives back. That weight, it is burden, absolutely, was the hardest thing I ever carried. Nearly broke me, nearly destroyed everything. But it was also freedom. Freedom from doubt, from shame, from wondering who I was, from questioning whether my identity was real. That weight proved I am who I claim to be. My word is what I say it is. My promises are true. And that freedom, that certainty, that ability to trust myself, it's worth any cost, any sacrifice, any burden. Because what's the alternative? Living with broken word, with conditional integrity, with trust that evaporates when tested, with identity that crumbles under pressure? No. Better to carry the weight, better to keep the promise, better to prove your word is real, your character is solid, your trust is absolute. The weight of a promise is the weight of being human, of being honorable, of being real. And there's no heavier weight and no greater freedom than knowing you can carry it.